Hello and welcome to the FITz and Healthy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Fitzgerald, and I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Cinthanie McAllister. What's up, girl?
Hey, girl, hey.
the quintessential hey, girl, hey that my other guest, Josh, is not familiar with, but he's giggling.
But you have to do it. In order to go through the interview, you have to do it. So just know. You're going to have to give us. Let's hear it.
So my other guest is Josh Holland. And so this is where you say,
hey, girl, hey.
Perfect. Okay, now we can talk.
Exactly. So, okay, today's episode is essentially going to be about total body health and fitness from a celebrity trainer. And that, of course, is you, my friend Josh. And before we get started, I kind of want to give, this is probably, I should have probably gotten your official bio and done a formal introduction, but that's just not my thing. So I'm just going to tell the listeners why they should be listening to you and this episode and let them go from there, right?
Okay.
But I was introduced to you by a mutual friend, Amanda Heffington. Shout out to Amanda. We love that girl. Yeah. And she said, you know what? I really think that you should connect with this guy because you two are very like-minded in so many different elements and ways of life. And I was like, okay. And I looked you up online. You have your own podcast. What's the name of the podcast again?
The podcast is called Simply Walk the Talk.
Yes. Love it. I love it. And so we connected, and sure enough, she was spot on in the fact that we are like-minded individuals. And I believe that like-minded individuals, when working together, synergy happens and big, good stuff happens. And so already I can tell that our crossing of paths is going to end up being synergistically crazy. So I'm just going to go ahead and start this episode by saying that this probably isn't going to be the one and only Josh Holland interview. I'm just going to put that into the universe. Okay.
We're putting it out there, everybody. We're putting it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the hey girl, hey down. So
he does. He's a natural.
What do you know?
So why don't you tell the listeners briefly kind of your history when we first met on Zoom? Because I had followed you online, but I didn't know this history, and that just makes you that much more intriguing to me, honestly.
Well, you're very sweet. Thank you for the kind introduction. And I don't know if there's anything I can do briefly, so I'll just kind of start with that. But I will do my best.
Yes, yeah.
After posting on my Instagram stories, I realized that we have another friend in common. Sheridan from Oklahoma City, at the cryotherapy place. Yeah. So she was like, oh my gosh,
small
how do you
world.
know? Yeah, it's such a small world. So shout out to Sheridan as well.
So shout out. Yeah. Shout out.
Anyway, so yes, I'm an Oklahoman, native Oklahoman. I grew up in a small town, population of about 3,000 people. I started off in martial arts. My family is a big martial artist, and I got introduced to the world of martial arts at age 4. And my brother and I, that was kind of a big part of my childhood and of our childhood together. So I learned very quickly how to lead, also how to follow from, watching my dad and just sort of experiencing what it was like to be in sort of this Eastern medicine philosophy of chi energy and all of these things that nowadays people would say is esoteric. And I would probably agree, but there's also a lot of validity to that. And all these things within Eastern medicine. But then I started to, after I got my black belt at a young age, I then went on to play basketball and ran track and did all of the other sports that I could possibly think of or do. And if I'm being honest here, it was mostly just to get out of school as much as possible. But
no judgment. No judgment.
I mean, let's not get it twisted. Like, I love school. I did very well in school, but I did everything from FHA to 4-H to band to basketball, track, just to get out of school. Anyway,
I love it.
So yeah, moving on, I went into, I started playing basketball at a very high level. And when playing basketball in different levels, I started to notice that there was a different methodology of training. And it was kind of interesting because I was like, all right, well, this coach is saying this, and this strength coach is saying that, and this person's saying this, and then Eastern medicine philosophy says to do this. And it was kind of convoluted at the time. But then I started to look back, and the way that my dad designed his karate style was such that you bring all the different styles together that makes sense to come up with my training philosophy. So it all kind of started from my background in martial arts and then going into basketball and so on and so forth.
So you're an Oklahoman by birth, but you haven't been in Oklahoma for how many years now?
Oh, yeah. I've been living in New York for over 13 years now, which is kind of very interesting to say, because when I first moved, I thought I was going to live there for about 6 months. It was sort of my objective to simply do some acting and some modeling, maybe get on a cover of a magazine or two. And then I would say, go back home, show my kids in the future, hey, Dad, look what your dad did in New York. And that was it. And 13 years later, I'm still here. So, well, I still have my things there. How about that?
I was about to say, because currently right now you're in Madrid.
That's right.
And that is a great segue to talk about how you got to the place that you're at right now, 13 years later, because what you do is you are hired by important people like Madonna to travel on tour with them when it's so hard to stay in shape. And that's their job, is to stay in shape, to be at their peak performance when you're an artist like Madonna. And currently right now you're traveling with what artist?
I'm with Roger Waters of Pink Floyd. Yeah. So he's
not a Pink Floyd fan. So you had to describe to me who that was. I'm like, oh, okay, there we go. But that's why you're in Madrid right now. So you've hit like 7 cities since last time I talked to you on online. Yeah. Wow.
You're keeping up better than I am. I mean, that's like, I have to look at my watch and see what time zone and what city I'm in. But yes, I basically, as you very well put that together, once I moved to New York, I kind of got into this world of high level networking. And I think this is one of the big keys to what I do. And I think obviously with what you do and many successful people around the world, what we do is we are good with people. And I think in order to continue to thrive and become successful, you have to be really good at communicating and networking with people. Mm-hmm. And I feel like New York is a huge breeding ground for that. So once I got into this door and that door, playing basketball and modeling and acting, one thing led to another. I got introduced to a celebrity trainer, ended up working with her for a while. That's how I met Madonna. Ended up working with Madonna for a few years on tour and sort of just being with her every day for years, to then fast forwarding to running my own company and my own fitness company, which was managing a facility called the Core Club in New York City, which is a high level, sort of the creme de la creme of New York. They belong to this club.
Bougie. The word is bougie.
Bougie. Okay.
Let's just say it. Call it for what it is. It's bougie.
Bougie. There you go. Bougie. Okay. Well, so it's a club for the bougie, right? And long story short, that's how I met Roger, and Roger Waters, that is. And to be honest, when I first met him, I had no idea. I mean, I've heard of Pink Floyd, but I didn't know if that was a person's name or what the deal was, right? Like, is this dude Pink? Why is he calling him Pink Floyd? But anyway, you know,
this is why you and I are alike.
Exactly.
Love it.
But you know, fast forward to working with him, and the fact that I had already worked with someone like Madonna and many other celebrities and actors and actresses and models, from Gigi Hadid to Oscar Isaac to many high-level people around the world. This is what has enabled me to be here where I'm at now, because a person like Roger, who's 74 years old, who's a rock star that has been rocking for 70, since his age of
Literally.
74.
Yeah.
You might understand that this takes a certain level of expertise and care and caution when working with someone. I can't just say to Roger, hey, dude, you've got 8 shows in 5 days or 8 shows in 10 days. I need you to do 100 burpees and 200 pull-ups. He's not doing that,
Yeah.
So it takes someone to be able to maintain a certain level of professionalism, but also keeping it cool to where he doesn't mind seeing my ugly mug every single day. You know what I'm saying? So,
and let me just say, most of the people listen to us on podcasts, but this might be one that y'all want to watch. I'm just going to put that out there. Okay. I'm happily in a relationship, but I'm just saying that some of you might appreciate watching this episode. That's all I got to say.
You're very humble.
Yes.
Well, you guys are making my face red, but thank you so much. You're super sweet. So anyway, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why I'm here on the road. And I must say this, and as cliche as it may sound or may be, I am truly grateful and honored to even be able to do what I do and have this continue to carry me around the world, because if I didn't have gratitude and I wasn't grateful and I wasn't appreciative, I think it would show, and I probably wouldn't be in these positions.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. That's something that we preach on a regular basis. And I think that is one reason why Amanda connected you and I.
I was just explaining how luxurious this life is, and I don't even have a solid connection.
Right?
That's super funny. Well,
the universe always balances itself out.
There you go. You guys have witnessed it firsthand about balance. So there we go.
For sure.
Anyway.
Why do you think you have what it takes to be the person that so many celebrities go to?
Oh, that's a very, very good question. And I think a little bit of that, good one. You've been doing your thing, clearly. I think a little bit of what I was getting at before, which is sort of the energy that I present or that I emit, is something that these celebrities, because at the end of the day, they're just like us. They're people like us.
Yeah,
exactly.
The difference is, though, is people at this caliber, they are very tuned in. Mm-hmm. And if anyone ever doubts the fact that how tuned in these people are, then they're missing the point, because they sniff fear, they sniff arrogance, they sniff all this stuff very fast. And that's why they are where they are. So, for instance, I was this tour, we just came from Lisbon here to Madrid. And Madonna happens to have a place in Lisbon. So I still am friends with her. I still can communicate with her. So I reached out to her. And, it's one of those things where I think if I had left that situation on bad terms, or if she had sensed any ill doing with my reaching out to her while I'm there on tour with someone else, she would have been she probably wouldn't have even answered the text. But she was with open arms. I go in, I go see her. We have a workout, and we get a chance to communicate now in a more of a friendship as opposed to a working relationship. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the same thing. It's two people communicating and understanding each other and then taking it from there. So this is what I do with each person, no matter if they are a celebrity or this is someone who I meet on Instagram. When I sit to this person right across from me, my goal is to be very present and to understand what their goals are, because it's once again, I'm known as a fitness trainer, but I think the majority of my discussions with people are talking about how well they sleep, what they eat, what kind of energy they have around them, who they surround themselves. Now, let's talk about why you even need, to lose an extra 5 pounds anyway. Let's discuss that. So, anyway.
Okay. So you blurped out there for a little bit, but I think that this is a great time for you to talk about the 4 pillars of health and fitness that you were speaking of before we started recording.
Okay. Yes. Good point. So In my methodology, if you will, and I don't even really like to call it a methodology or a method because, at the end of the day, we're all sort of sharing and borrowing and repackaging and whatnot. But the way I kind of look at life and the ways of trying to optimize health and wellness and fitness is I break it down into 4 pillars. And the 4 pillars are quality sleep and recovery. That's pillar number 1. And
I was about to say, notice the number 1 that you noted, guys. Sleep.
Yes.
So important.
Super important. And it's why it's number 1. And the reason why I put it number 1 is because if a person comes to me and say, hey, if there's one thing I could focus on, because I only have the wherewithal or the mental capacity to focus on one thing at a time, what's the one thing you would say to focus on? And I go, that's super easy. Sleep and recovery. That's it. Simply put, because within sleep and recovery is discussions about stress, parasympathetic nervous system response, the autonomic nervous system responses, sympathetic nervous system. All of these things kind of are housed within sleep and recovery. And so the better you should focus on sleep and recovery if you're going to focus on one main thing. And obviously, if we need to go in more detail, we can. But pillar number 2 would be quality consumption. And the reason why I say consumption is because people, if I say quality food, then people only think about the food that they're eating, and they tend to conveniently forget about the things that they're drinking, or as you take a drink of water, yes, or they even conveniently forget about the energy that they're consuming, right? Because that's also very, very important, because you can get your diet right. You can get your what you drink and what you eat, you can get that perfectly. But if you've got someone who's being just super negative, how to really focus on the quality consumption. So that's number 2. Pillar number 3, we've got 1 and 2. Now we're at number 3, numero 3. Pillar 3 is quality activeness. And it's something that is super, super easy to understand. I don't even have to beat this one to death. But, it's things like taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or skipping a step on the escalator instead of just riding the escalator, parking farther away from the store if you're in a place where you drive. In New York City, when I'm there, I am forced to be a little bit more active than other places because I have to walk up and down.
Before we go on to the 4th pillar, I want to make sure that people understand, like, all of the latest research is looking at sitting is essentially the new smoking. Like, literally, our sedentary life is leading to more health complications than smoking is. So just being active, like the littlest things that you take for granted, but our sedentary lifestyle has overcome, and it's causing way more problems than freaking cigarettes. So I just wanted to put that in there, because that's definitely part of pillar 3 for sure.
Absolutely. And I'll even piggyback on that and add in maybe even worse than the just sitting is stillness, right? Because just being still, I think if we were to, because, there's this big revolution, if you will, of people going to standing desks. That's all fine and well too, right? But if you're standing for long periods of time, they're trying to come out with research to say that even that's bad. So really, it should be this variance and movement, like you just mentioned, which should be maybe getting up and down. Something very simple that I do every day. Once again, this is a way to try to find ways to get new activity throughout the body, is I try to do all the things I do with my right hand, because I'm right-handed. I try to do it all with my left hand. Mm-hmm. Simple things like brushing my teeth, or like combing my hair. Well, I don't really comb my hair anymore. But,
I was about to say, you comb it? Come
on. But like even little things like when I make coffee in the morning, I have this interesting little procedure I go through with my coffee, which requires a lot of shaking. So instead of always shaking with my right hand and always drinking with my right hand, I do everything with my left now, just to get different movement patterns. Even little things like when I get up from the ground, if I use my hands, right, I try to think about, do I always use my right side? Because I don't always use my hands when I get up off the ground. But I try to use the non-dominant side a little bit more. It's just another way to get activity in your body without having to rededicate more time to the activity.
I'm going to try to pour water later today with my left hand, and it's just like going to go everywhere. Trying to use my other side now.
Right.
Well,
but that's an interesting point, because I don't think I would have ever thought about that. And I don't think the average person would have either.
Right. Yeah, it's what you'll see when you do this later is you'll see that it just requires a different level of focus. And that's it, because we have all of these innate abilities within our body. We just lose track of it, or it's like a use it or lose it situation. And so if we don't have to remember someone's phone number because we don't have to type it in anymore, then what's the use of that ability, right? Like, how many phone numbers can you repeat now? I know like 10 years ago, I used to be able to, like, I have this thing with numbers, and I kind of have a photographic memory with many things, especially visually. But I mean, it's like, I don't remember nearly half, maybe not even a third of the numbers I used to be able to remember in my brain. So anyway, that's movement as well.
Do you know that my mom doesn't use like, she literally types out people's numbers for that reason. Shout out to Mama FITz. That's all I gotta
Mom.
say.
Hey, Mom. Hey.
Okay. Hey, Mom. Hey.
Yeah.
You are our tribe. You are our tribe.
Yes. So, so carrying on to the last one, which is the pillar number 4, which is what most everyone is almost like, nipping at the bit to try to figure out, okay, what exercise advice are we going to get next? Because quality exercise is pillar number 4. And if you've noticed all the way throughout the pillars, I've utilized the adjective quality.
Yes.
Right. So quality sleep and recovery, quality consumption, quality activeness, and then quality exercise. And the reason why I put that sort of to distinguish quality exercise from just exercise in general is that sometimes we need to have this idea of overtraining. Many of us today overtrain because they think it's the one thing that's going to help them get into good shape, which in turn might be the one thing that's keeping them out of good health. So it kind of, the 4 pillars ends up being like a vicious cycle, or it's like a kind of a spiral to where one feeds into the next. And so when you do one of them better, then it should kind of bleed into the next one being better, and so on and so forth. So, there's a lot within that. When it comes to quality exercise, clearly me being a health coach and a fitness professional, I would suggest working with someone you trust, someone who is well-versed in what you need. Don't necessarily, and the reason why I emphasize what you specifically need is because far too often do we see people on Instagram today, which is completely fine. I don't knock anyone that makes a buck off of a sexy body or a huge profile. But when it comes to true health and wellness and what you need for your body, it takes more than just someone with a nice set of abs or someone who looks like a model. This is all I'm saying.
Thank you. Thank you. No, because it's a very individual
or a lollipop
process
that suppresses your appetite.
Yeah, I mean, there's many things, but no, it's a very individual process, and I love that you have pointed out the importance of not overtraining and how important rest and recovery is, because I think it's like glorified to just like hustle. Like sleep is almost considered a weakness. Like it's almost treated like, oh, you're weak if like you're not doing something 24/7. Like if you're not hustling and you're not pushing yourself, then you're like no pain, no gain. You're not committed. And it's like, that is just as unbeneficial as it is in the reverse side of things. And so I love that you point out the importance of rest and recovery. Cause like I said, it's almost treated like a weakness. Like you're weak if you do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, in medicine, I mean, literally my ex-husband was a surgeon. And if I had $1 for every time he said, I'll sleep when I die, like it's considered like you're tough. You're you're just stupid.
You're just running yourself into the ground.
And I mean, doctors are that way. I know that a lot of CEO types, a lot of entrepreneurs just like, I'm proud of my hustle, but I'm also proud of the fact that I know how to rest and relax.
Yes.
Because I know how important it is for my body.
Absolutely. And you know what's funny about what you just mentioned, the phrase "I'll sleep when I die." That's actually going to be one of the titles of one of the chapters in my book in the future, right?
Hey.
Which
I love it.
Yeah. And it's simply because we all have either heard it or we've said it ourselves. I'm guilty of it for sure.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wait a minute, if you really think about it, like maybe you will die because you haven't slept, and so you get to that fate a lot sooner than you probably would have otherwise. So there's just so much, and we could probably literally have an entire episode dedicated to pillar number 1, which on my podcast we did do.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's something that is very, very important.
For sure. So you are about to open up your own facility in New York City, correct?
This is correct. Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy awesome. So first of all, what's the name of the facility going to be?
So the name of the facility is 432. And 432 is congruent with the Fibonacci sequence, or the hertz, the 432 hertz of the universe. And the ideology behind that is sort of, if you're familiar with grounding or earthing, it's sort of a way to sort of rebalance the energy within our cells, right? So we have positive ions and negative ions, and when we can rebalance that with the negative charge of the earth, then this is when we feel best, when we are closest to good health and away from sickness. So the idea with calling the gym that is so that you feel like you're coming home when you come to our place. You're coming to a state of health, because we're going to be doing everything from fitness classes to nutritional counseling to all of the biohacking tools that I utilize. And the overall overarching idea is all of the methods and the experience that I've gained over the 10 plus years of training at a high level. We're going to give that back to the public, because the goal here is to share, like I've mentioned before. And I used to hear all the time people say, yeah, Josh, but I would love to work out with you, but I'm not a celebrity. Or I would love to work out with you, but I'm not wealthy. And well, that's fine. And that's how it used to be. And I felt bad because I wanted to help everyone, really.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I have the platform to do so, which is why I started the podcast, which is why I'm in the process of writing a book, and which is why I'm opening a gym for the first. So yeah, it's really exciting.
I love you. Yes. Amanda was spot on when she connected the two of us, for sure. No, but I love because, the traditional trainer is not open-minded to stuff like biohacking and grounding and all of these other things that can push you and your own health and fitness to that next level. And that's why, yes, exercise is important and your nutrition is important, but there's so many other elements that people overlook when they want to become healthy and happy. Right. And if these other aspects of life are not addressed, I mean, sleep alone, I was just actually talking with an anesthesiologist in Atlanta last weekend. He's a Black male, and he gave me a stat that 95% of Black anesthesiologists don't make it to their 60th birthday. Wow. That's insane. But it's because the stress that the body takes with sleep deprivation, with not managing stress, with not knowing how to rest and relax, it affects the body, and it will bring you to the grave sooner than later, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. That's impactful. Those of you that are listening, listen to that, because it's more than just how many calories you quote unquote burn or eat or how many miles you run. It's about managing stress and recovery. So well said.
Absolutely. So I didn't know the name of your gym, which that's brilliant. Okay. I'm not going to pretend like I know New York City, but what area of New York City is it going to be? Okay. For those people that are listening that want to try it out.
So the address is 1350 6th Avenue, or more politically correct, known as 1350 Avenue of the Americas.
Okay.
But it's 6th Avenue. If you're a New Yorker, it's 6th Avenue.
Okay.
And
is that like uptown Manhattan or what's
it's technically Midtown Manhattan, right in the heart of Midtown. So if you're familiar with where Central Park starts, Central Park starts at 59th Street. That's Central Park South. We are at 55th Street. So we're 4 streets just south of Central Park, right in the center. And there's also this very iconic Love statue, LOVE, that's right in front of our gym. So like tourists from all around the world come to this statue to take photos. And I'm going to be out there kind of like, hey, take your photo and come and train with us.
Yeah, I was going to say that doesn't suck. Free marketing for you.
Absolutely.
For
Absolutely. For sure. Yeah. So, and
so,
of course, we're going to be using
what's your vision for this facility?
That's a how much time do we have? Okay. Very simply put, the overall vision is to try to educate everyone involved. And that's myself included. So it's a facility to share growth, to share training styles, to share knowledge and everything that's combined. And it starts sort of from the top. So from the top, I'm kind of bleeding information down through my trainers, and the trainers are then educating their clients and their customers. And then people come in and give us feedback. Well, if I don't listen to the feedback, then I'm not truly learning. Therefore, the growth stops, right? So we need to be able to have people come in. We're going to be one of the few gyms that will allow other methods to come in and teach. Come in and, host a class.
I love that.
We want to treat it almost like a residency program. So there's residency programs in the medical field. There's residency programs in the art world. But like, what about the fitness world? It's like everyone wants to kind of hone their own information. And it's like, no, but I did this first back in 2012. And this was my workout.
Right?
And how dare someone else do my workout? It's like, wait, are you patenting movements? Are you what?
Right.
So
and you kind of have a feel for dance fitness as well, because tell the listeners, because I have a lot of dance fitness listeners. Tell them your history with dance fitness.
Oh boy.
Dance fitness.
Yeah. So dance,
y'all, he can move. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, if you see the hue of my skin, the pigmentation that I have would probably give you a little bit of an idea of where I thought I was with dancing when I was a young boy. When I was little, I used to think I could do Michael Jackson and I could moonwalk, and I would always dance at parties and stuff. And then I moved to New York and realized, wait a minute, dancing is a completely different thing. And it's a whole subcategory of superhumans, like there's people who can do things that I've never even seen before. Yes. And I got reintroduced to the dance world when I first learned what a bar mitzvah was. And you remember this discussion we had?
I love this story. Yeah, they have to hear this story.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll give it the quick version. So I was in New York, just moved. I was trying to do everything to kind of stay afloat, everything from bartending to catering jobs, and I picked up this gig because I was at an acting audition, and I met this hot girl. She was super hot, and I was just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna do whatever I can to talk to her. So I'm talking to her, even though I was supposed to leave. I had already done my audition and whatever. But I'm sitting there talking to this girl, and we get to the part of the conversation where it's like, oh, so what do you do? And she's like, yeah, I'm a dancer. And I was like, oh man. Because, coming from Oklahoma, I'm thinking
he's a dude, and obviously,
dancer. Right. I'm thinking she's a stripper, which, for all the strippers out there, nothing wrong with it.
No disrespect.
Cardi B has came up and killed the game for strippers. So there you go. But, to my naive young mind, then I was like, oh man, this girl's ruined. And I wanted to holler at her, but now I can't really talk to her. So, so anyway, I decided to not just end the conversation. I decided to continue talking to her, and I was looking for an exit. When finally she's like, "Hey, so what do you do?" And I told her all the things I'm doing. I'm looking for work, and she was like, "Well, my boss is always looking to hire. I could, get you an interview." And I'm thinking, huh? Wait, what? Okay, sure. Keep in mind, I'm just trying to holler at her, right? So I'm just like, all right, well, sure. And this was well before Facebook and Instagram. I think this was like the MySpace days. So anyway, we like exchange information, and I don't think anything of it. Finally, I get a phone call, because this was back when you call people, right? So I got a phone call
crazy
from this guy named Echo. And I'm like, oh man, this dude is like a pimp, right? His name is Echo. He's definitely this girl's pimp. And like, she really did have this dude call me. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna be stripping, dude. But all right, whatever. So he goes, hey, so like one of my dancers says that we should hire you. We should work with you. Do you have any dance background? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, okay. You did look at the website, right? And I was like, yeah, which I didn't. So I quickly go into the website while I'm on the phone with him, and I see that there's like kids dancing at parties with girls and guys dancing. And I'm like, wait, what is this? And he's like, yeah, it's a bar mitzvah. And I'm like, well, what's a bar mitzvah? He's like, you don't know what a bar mitzvah is? I'm like, no. Anyway, long story short.
I'm from Oklahoma. There ain't Jewish people in Oklahoma.
Yeah. So I go, and my first day, I get all like dressed up, and I go to my first bar mitzvah. And the first job they give me, which they give to all the newbies, is to escort all these kids from the temple to the party venue. That was a nightmare. Okay, it was a nightmare. There's like 12-year-old and 13-year-old kids with hormones out the roof. Okay. And I get on the van or the bus, and as soon as I get on, they're like, ooh, newbie, new guy, who's the new guy? And they're like bullying me, I'm like in my mid-20s, and these kids are kind of like have me scared. So I'm like, so like, okay, do I sit here? And they're like, no, you can't sit there. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go sit over there. They're like, no, you can't sit there. And then I see like these two couples are trying to they're making out. Other ones are drinking, some are smoking, other ones are trying to have sex in the back. And I'm like, so this is what bar mitzvah dancing is all about, okay? Anyway, long story short, I get to the party venue, told them I will never do that again, but just let me dance. And so I go and dance, and I'm just kind of doing this little groove with all the moms, quickly to find out that that's not cool either, because all the dads are like, nah, bruh, you ain't dancing with my girl. So here I am again with all the kids, because I'm not going to be dancing with the dudes, and I'm not can't dance with the wives. So now I'm just stuck with the kids again. And they're like, what are you doing here? Get out of here. I was just, anyway, that was my first experience to dancing for bar mitzvahs. And
that's awesome.
And yeah, I later started to understand that you need to learn how to calm the guys down. I'm not trying to hit on your wife, man. And the women, you keep that safe distance. But that's what enabled me to kind of start dancing, because I wanted to learn like a little bit of like the couples dancing art forms. And so I started learning, and I went online and I saw the different classes, and I would be in my apartment at home doing the dance steps. And fast forward now to my life, I'm Zumba certified. I do Zumba strong. I even, while working with Madonna, I had to legit learn how to dance, and because that's the way she likes to do her cardio. So dancing for Madonna was sort of what enabled me. She knew that I wasn't a dancer, but the fact that I was willing to take so much more time to learn how to do these dance steps, even though it didn't look like what she wanted it to look like, she appreciated the hard work that I put in. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what ended up getting me to be able to work with her for years. And I can say I even got a chance to dance with her on stage at 2 of her shows in Tel Aviv. I have video of it. Yeah. And then I also
we're gonna need to see that video for sure.
Okay, I'll send it to you. And then I also danced with her at the halftime of the Super Bowl when she performed on the Super Bowl. So,
no way.
No way.
Yeah. Now, I will say this for all the dancers out there, because I know there's a lot of dancers out there who are legit dancers, and this is what they do.
Hating you right now.
Yes, my dancing exactly. My dance skills are nowhere near what you might think they are. I mean, I could dance okay for a trainer, for a person who's not considered a dancer. And when I did the choreography was so easy when I danced with her in Tel Aviv, that is just kind of like anybody can learn it, right? So it's like, let's get it straight. But I had a blast doing it, and even when I saw her a few days ago, I was just like, hey, let's do some of those old dances we used to do. And she's like, no, we don't do that anymore. you do jumping jacks in the corner over there, boy. Okay.
I love it. Okay. I love it.
Sure.
Man, like when I was young, I wanted to grow up, graduate high school, and move to either New York or LA and be either Janet Jackson's backup dancer, a Fly Girl, or Madonna's backup dancer. Cause I mean, they were it when I was, in my prime of dancing. So that's why dancers are hating you right now, because I mean, that's amazing that you had that experience in your life, for real.
I will say much respect to the dance world. I only bring up this, my experience, because it goes to show just what can happen when you work really hard. And people say to me sometimes, they say, wow, Josh, you're so lucky. And I don't let that get to me by any means, because I understand what they're saying or what they think they're saying. Mm-hmm. But then I kind of respond back by saying, listen, the keys to where I am today were a multitude of things. One was I was in the right place at the right time with the right willingness to learn, mm-hmm. the ability to take risks, huge risks, and the fact that I was mobile. I lived a nomadic life. I mean, this is huge when it comes to celebs and high profile people who need someone. When they really want you, they don't care that you need to get a dog sitter. They don't care that your girlfriend is at home waiting to see you and it's your anniversary. They don't care. Mm-hmm. I remember specifically being invited to an Oscars after party with Madonna and all of her people. And I had the girl that I was dating at the time. She was stuck at the hotel, just kind of like in tears, watching me get dressed in my tuxedo. And I'm like, what do you do?
Yeah. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. And it's like, and for anyone else out there that wants to know the struggle, like, yes, this is a very glamorous life and it's amazing at times, but there's a lot of sacrifices that have to be met. And let's also keep this point going. If I was at the right place at the right time, but I didn't have the expertise or the willingness to want to learn, then it's almost like having the key that fits but doesn't turn. It just won't turn, right? So it's like you can get to the door with the right key, but if it doesn't turn and unlock it, and this is almost very, very symbolic to my arrival into New York. I remember I was very, very naive when I sent this random photographer, because I didn't know anybody in New York. I just up and moved, okay? I, quote unquote, met this photographer on this modeling website, because that's what I was moving to do, was modeling and stuff. And he seemed super cool. Keep in mind, I'm an Oklahoman. Everyone's nice, right? And this guy's
you
like,
trust everyone, for sure.
Yeah, you trust everybody. So this guy's like, listen, you're going to be moving to New York. You need a place to stay. You can rent my apartment. I'm going to be in Europe traveling for the next 6 months, but you're welcome to rent my place. And I'm like, cool. Okay. So he's like, yeah, just send me a deposit. I'll send you the key. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I got you. So I sent him a deposit. I didn't know any better. So I get this key, right? I get all of my bags ready. I get my flight. It doesn't dawn on me until I get to the bus, and the bus drops me off, and I get to the building. And mind you, it was like a 4-story walk up. Hot, right. Super hot. I got all these bags. And I'm there at the base of the stairs, and that was the first time I thought to myself, this could be any key. This may not be the right key. This dude could have just hustled the hell out of me, said, send me some money, and here's a key. So what was symbolic about that is as I walk up the stairs, it just reminded me of this journey that I'm taking. The fact that I put the key into that door and it opened and unlocked it, I was like, I'm good. I'm good. What more do I need? You know what I mean? It's like everything else made its way into that moment in time meant I was supposed to be there at that point in time. And it wasn't easy from there, but that is the symbolism to my journey in this whole world of health and wellness and working with celebs and just doing what I do, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, every episode that we have on the FITz and Healthy podcast is about empowering the listener to get to living a life by design. And you know, obviously being a personal trainer to the celebrities is probably like talking to maybe 1% of people listening. I mean, let's be honest, but your story of you taking your own talents, passions, and desires and making them your reality, your life by design is what I want people to take away from this episode, because you are truly, I mean, you came from a town of 3,000 people in Oklahoma. And I guarantee that everyone that you graduated high school from probably started having babies 2 years later and probably are doing the same thing every single day and living a mediocre life. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone that does that is mediocre, like everyone to each his own. But I think that so many people, especially people that are born into small towns here in the United States, don't ever get out of this mindset of, well, this is just how it's supposed to be. It's like, no, if you want to go to freaking New York, and you got to face those fears. And I mean, you were facing major fears. I mean, just standing, you know, at the base of the building and, okay, I'm about to walk up 4 flights and the key might not turn. I mean, if you would have never faced that fear, you wouldn't be here today and have the life experiences that you had and change the lives that you've had already and continue to change. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? I think I'm big with takeaways. So I'm glad you wrapped that up in a very, very nice little package for everyone. And I'll do one even better. Here's my mantra. And it's on all of my signatures, the signature emails or the email signatures that when I send people emails and whatnot, you've probably seen it. But it's something that I truly live by. And I think if we all have a mantra or several mantras that we can truly harness in times of need, then I think we will all live a better life. But my mantra is simply this: our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. The reason why I use that is because...
That's good. I'm stealing that.
Please do. Please do. Please do. And,
I'll give you credit, but I'm stealing that.
Absolutely. Please do. You know, because here's the thing. Even for myself, when I think, man, this week has just been intense, or it's just like, I don't feel as good as I usually do, I think back to my mantra. Our body is only adapting to what we're giving it, right? So you know about epigenetics and the fact that our environment can influence our cells and our health and our wellness and all these things. We understand that. But it's like, if you really want to get out of this situation, you got to change something. So if you want change, create change. And it's as simple as that. And I even liken that to relationships. Far too many people today are like, I just can't seem to find the right girl. I can't seem to find the right guy. Have you thought about the common denominator? Right? Sometimes we got to think about the thing that maybe needs to change, or to find the change, right? And of course, there's probably lots of bad people out there, and sometimes we probably run into them. Maybe we attract them. But if you really want change, you got to change. And even I have learned with a lot of reading, because I'm doing a book a week challenge currently. And a lot of the reading that I'm doing is all about perception and all about personal development. And I think that's really important today. So anyway, we can go down a rabbit hole on that one. Yeah.
I mean, for real. So Josh, if the listeners, because my audience really has no clue who you are up until this episode. So I'm guessing that every single person that listened to this and or watched this episode is going to be like, okay, so where do I find this man? Because He's my jam. So tell the audience, the ones that don't live in New York, that can't come and join your gym and whatnot. Tell them where they can find you.
Okay. Well, thank you for that beautiful opportunity to plug myself on this.
Of course.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think the most popular way to find me is through Instagram right now, Instagram or Facebook. So both are the same. So all of my social media is kind of the same username, which is at Joshua J Holland, which is JOSHUA JHOLLAND. And Joshua J Holland is simply my full name. My middle name is JAY, by the way. But
there we go. Okay, good.
Yeah, for the tag, it's just the letter J. Okay, so Joshua J Holland.
Okay,
and then my website is, as you might have guessed, joshuajholland.com.
There you go. Excellent.
We also have a website, a podcast that I think we're going to do some cross promotion with. And that podcast is Simply Walk the Talk. So you can find that at Simply Walk the Talk or simplywalkthetalk.com. And there I provide a lot more in-depth details about things that I believe in, or things that I'm practicing or working on. And, I've always got like new supplements or techniques that I'm trying. And so it's kind of it's a good dive into more than what you're hearing now.
Yeah.
From what I can take away from what I've learned about you, you're kind of like, in many ways, the black male version of me. Like your mindset. No, I mean, seriously, your mindset, you think outside of the box, you're open to different ways of thinking, biohacking. We're very like-minded. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, I believe when like-minded people come together, synergy truly happens. And that's how we're going to change this planet for the better. And every episode we end the FITz and Healthy podcast with our mantra, if you will, that originated from Cinthanie and her mantra. So Cinthanie, would you let him hear our mantra for the FITz and Healthy podcast?
Yeah, it is that you are a good person and you deserve good things to happen to you.
Amen. So
and you said that so beautifully right into the camera. Wow. Like if that doesn't make every guy out there melt, I don't know what does.
Right?
Well done. Maybe girls too. I don't know.
Appreciate you so much. We appreciate you so much taking this time to let us interview you for the FITz and Healthy podcast. Look forward to working with you in the future. I look forward to coming to New York City and possibly doing a little Club Fitzing, I mean,
absolutely.
You don't even know what the Club Fitz experience is like. Just you wait.
Well, I have somewhat of an idea, and I'm definitely on board with it. I'm on board with it. So, definitely thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it. And, sorry, Robert, for all of the editing you're going to have to do with some of the glitches here. But ultimately, I hope everyone walks away or leaves this episode understanding that there are many, many ways to sort of achieve health and wellness in this day and world. I think if we can bring about more love and we can work on ourselves more, I think the world will be a better place. So with that, thank you guys again for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the FITz and Healthy podcast. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Make sure that you find us on social media. You can find Cinthanie on Instagram and Facebook at Cinthanie. So that's CINTHANIE, and on Snapchat at Cinthanie P. And find me on social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Club Fitz Fitness. Remember, that's FITZ Fitness. and on Snapchat, just @ClubFitz. I appreciate your time listening so much. If you enjoyed this episode of the FITz and Healthy podcast, can you please go do me a favor and go subscribe at whatever platform that it is that you listen to podcasts. Leave a review. We read every single review, and we appreciate the time that you take to leave your thoughts and opinions. Now, also remember, while I am a medical doctor, the information I provide here is not intended to provide medical advice or a professional diagnosis, opinion, treatment, or services to you or to any other individual. I am providing general information for educational and informational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for medical or professional care. You should not use this information in place of a visit, call, consultation, or the advice of your physician or other healthcare provider. The information I share is not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose any disease or medical condition. If you believe you have a medical emergency, just call 911 immediately or your physician. Now, enough of that medical legal jargon. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate your time. Now, go live a FITz and healthy life.